Ladies, let's talk about something society still struggles to digest: a woman who lives alone without a man, not because she's been abandoned. Beverage, not because she's waiting for the right one, but because she chooses to. Independence for a woman, Brits, is not simply about having a job or paying one's bills. It is a lifestyle choice, a declaration of self-sufficiency that goes far beyond basic survival. Brits. True independence is the art of living beautifully, thoughtfully, and unapologetically on your own terms. Brits. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can create your own reality without depending on anyone else to validate or define you. Brits. In today's world, where femininity is often misinterpreted as fragility, the independent woman disrupts expectations. She is soft, yes, but not weak. She is elegant, but not passive, and she is alone, but not lonely. Brits. Her independence allows her to design a life of intentional luxury, one that reflects her personal standards rather than society's pressures. Brits. She chooses where she lives, how she dresses, how she spends her time, and who earns access to her world. This freedom is in itself a luxury. Because for centuries, women were not allowed to own property, make financial decisions, or even travel alone. Brits. To live unbound in this modern era is not something to take lightly. It is a privilege that many before us fought for. Yet, Brits, it is also a power that many women still hesitate to fully claim. Brits, often due to internalized guilt or outdated narratives that equate independence with selfishness or coldness. Favorites. But being independent does not mean you reject partnership or intimacy. It means you don't require it in order to function, to thrive, or to feel complete. Brits. You welcome relationships that enhance your life, not ones that try to rescue you from it. And that distinction changes everything. It shifts the energy. Brits. When you are self-sufficient, you are not easily impressed by shallow offers or performative gestures. You become discerning, not desperate. Brits. Independence allows you to make decisions from a place of self-worth rather than self-doubt. It teaches you to be intentional with your time, your energy, favorites, your presence. You know that your peace is expensive and not everyone can afford it. Brits. This kind of self-possession becomes magnetic. It radiates from the way you walk into a room, the way you carry yourself, Brits, the way you don't shrink or over-explain. And yes, it can be intimidating. Not everyone knows what to do with a woman who doesn't need anything from them. Favorites. But that's not your problem to solve. The truth is, power makes some people uncomfortable, especially when it's quiet, especially when it's feminine. Favorites, especially when it's not for sale. What many don't realize is that independence is deeply connected to elegance. It is not loud or boastful. Favorites, it doesn't seek attention. Instead, it manifests in a woman's routines, in her ability to curate her environment, Brits, to maintain her lifestyle with or without outside support, and to walk away from anything that disturbs her inner harmony. Independence, Brits, in its most elevated form, is about knowing that you are the architect of your own life. Your home, your finances, your boundaries, your standards. Brits, you are not waiting for someone to give you permission to live beautifully. You are already doing it. Brits, there is a profound and often overlooked truth about solitude. It is the fertile ground where self-worth is cultivated and flourishes. Brits, in a society obsessed with constant connection, the idea of choosing to be alone can seem foreign or even unsettling. Yet, for the woman who embraces solitude, Brits, it becomes a sacred opportunity to nurture her relationship with herself, a relationship far deeper and more rewarding than any external validation could provide. Brits, when a woman lives alone, she is gifted with time to reflect, to heal, and to understand her own desires without distraction. Brits, she learns to listen to the quiet whispers of her heart and mind, to differentiate between what she truly needs and what society tells her she should want. Brits, in this solitude, she discovers that her worth is not contingent on the approval of others. It is intrinsic, unshakable, and beautifully her own. Solitude strips away the noise, the expectations, the comparisons, the need to perform, and what remains is authenticity. Brits. Without the pressure to fit into a relationship or a social mold, she becomes free to define her identity on her own terms. Brits. This freedom is a radical act of self-love. It teaches her that her presence alone is enough. Brits, that she is complete without needing to fill any gaps with someone else's attention or affection. In these quiet moments, Favorites. She builds a foundation of confidence. She learns to celebrate her accomplishments, big and small, without seeking applause. She becomes her own cheerleader, creates her own source of encouragement. This internal validation is far more sustaining than any fleeting praise from the outside world because it comes from a place of deep respect and understanding. Moreover, solitude allows her to confront her fears and insecurities head on without distractions. She faces the parts of herself she might have ignored or suppressed. This courageous self-examination leads to growth. She learns resilience, patience, and compassion. First and foremost for herself, she understands that imperfection is part of her beauty and that her worthiness is not diminished by flaws or mistakes. Living alone also sharpens her sense of boundaries. When you rely on no one but yourself, you become highly selective about who you allow into your inner circle. She no longer tolerates energy that drains her or relationships that diminish her. This discerning nature is a direct result of the self-respect she has cultivated in solitude. It protects her peace and preserves her emotional well-being. Solitude is often mistaken for loneliness, but they are very different states. Loneliness is a feeling of emptiness, whereas solitude is a deliberate choice to be with oneself. It is in this chosen solitude that a woman nurtures her soul, reconnects with her passions, and redefines what happiness means on her own terms. She learns that her joy is not dependent on external circumstances but grows from within. By embracing solitude, she embodies a powerful message that self-worth is not something given, it is something earned, nurtured, and fiercely protected. It is the foundation upon which she builds every aspect of her life, from her career to her friendships to her potential partnerships. And it is this unwavering self-worth that allows her to enter any room with grace, strength, and undeniable presence. Financial sovereignty is one of the most profound forms of freedom a woman can achieve. It's not simply about having money in the bank, it's about owning your financial destiny, and in doing so, unlocking a level of emotional independence few truly understand. When a woman controls her finances, she liberates herself from the subtle yet powerful dependencies that can so often define relationships and self-worth. For many women, the idea of financial sovereignty feels intimidating or even unattainable. But in truth, it's an elegant form of self-respect. It signals that you refuse to rely on anyone else to provide security or comfort, that your well-being is your responsibility first and foremost. This attitude shifts the entire dynamic of how you relate to yourself and to others. When you have financial control, you hold the keys to your own life. You can choose where you live, what you wear, how you spend your time, and which experiences you prioritize. You're not beholden to anyone's approval or generosity. This autonomy means you can say yes to what truly delights you and no to anything that compromises your values or peace. More importantly, financial sovereignty creates emotional freedom. When money isn't a source of anxiety or dependence, you are free to engage in relationships from a place of genuine desire rather than necessity. You are not settling for companionship out of fear of financial instability. Instead, you attract partnerships that elevate you, ones based on mutual respect and shared vision rather than need or obligation. Emotional freedom born from financial sovereignty also means you aren't vulnerable to manipulation or control. When a woman has her own resources, she can leave situations that no longer serve her without the crushing weight of uncertainty. This power to walk away is transformative. It allows her to maintain her dignity and self-worth regardless of external circumstances. Furthermore, managing your finances well fosters discipline and confidence. Budgeting, investing, saving, these are not just practical skills, but acts of self-care. They reflect your commitment to building a life that honors your dreams and secures your future. This financial mindfulness spills over into every aspect of your existence, teaching you patience, strategic thinking, and long-term vision. Financial sovereignty also dismantles the traditional narratives about dependency and gender roles. It challenges the outdated idea that a woman must rely on a man for stability or validation. Instead, it celebrates her as a complete, capable individual who can cultivate abundance on her own terms. This shift is not just personal, it's cultural. It redefines what it means to be feminine in the modern world, graceful, powerful, and self-possessed. Brits, living with financial sovereignty doesn't mean rejecting generosity or partnership. On the contrary, it enables you to give freely, without expectation, Brits, and to receive graciously, without insecurity. It allows you to build relationships that are balanced and authentic, favorites, where both partners contribute from a place of strength rather than obligation. In essence, financial sovereignty is a declaration, Brits, you are the author of your life story, and you hold the pen. This freedom is not frivolous. It is foundational, Brits. It grounds your emotional well-being and opens the door to a life rich in choices, confidence, and self-respect. Throughout history, Brits, society has been quick to judge what it does not fully comprehend, especially when it comes to women who live life outside conventional expectations. Brits, a woman who chooses to live alone without a man often faces silent scrutiny or outright assumptions. Yet, Brits, these judgments say more about society's discomfort with autonomy and nonconformity than about the woman herself. Brits, our cultural narratives have long been scripted around the idea that a woman's fulfillment is found through partnership, marriage, and motherhood. Brits, deviating from this script invites misunderstanding. When a woman embraces solitude, independence, and self-direction, Brits, she disrupts deeply ingrained stereotypes. Instead of admiration or curiosity, she is met with skepticism, pity, or even condescension. Society, favorites, in its rush to categorize, often labels her as incomplete, lonely, or desperate, failing to recognize that her life may be rich, full, Brits, and profoundly satisfying precisely because she lives on her own terms. This misjudgment stems from fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, Brits, and fear of redefining what femininity and success look like. When a woman opts out of the traditional path, Brits, she challenges not only gender norms, but also the collective comfort zone. This discomfort reveals itself in subtle ways: the unsolicited advice, to the invasive questions, favorites, the assumption that she must be waiting for someone or that she's somehow missing out. But the truth is far more nuanced and far more empowering. A woman who lives alone without a man is not an anomaly. She is a pioneer. She embodies a new paradigm of womanhood that is self-sufficient, favorites, emotionally mature, and unapologetically intentional. Her life is not less valuable because it doesn't conform. It is valuable because it is authentic. Misjudgments also arise from a lack of visibility. Society rarely showcases the beauty and strength found in solo living. Instead, media often glorifies romantic coupling as the ultimate achievement. This skewed representation perpetuates narrow ideals and leaves little room for diverse experiences. When women who live alone are seen, it is often through the lens of pity or tragedy rather than celebration. Furthermore, society tends to confuse solitude with loneliness, independence with isolation, and singlehood with failure. These misconceptions ignore the richness of a life chosen deliberately, where self-love, personal growth, and freedom take center stage. A woman who lives alone develops a relationship with herself that is deep and nurturing. She cultivates interests, hobbies, and friendships that fulfill her on multiple levels. Her social life is not dictated by relationship status, but by quality and intention. In essence, society misjudges what it doesn't understand because it clings to outdated frameworks. It fears evolution and resists the idea that women can thrive outside traditional roles. But as more women step into their sovereignty, redefine success, and celebrate their choices, these misconceptions will gradually dissolve. The path of the independent woman challenges us all to rethink what it means to live a meaningful, fulfilled life on our own terms. Choosing to live alone is not a resignation to loneliness or an excuse for neglect. On the contrary, a woman who embraces a solo life understands that it demands a level of elegance, a conscious cultivation of grace, poise, and self-respect that permeates every aspect of her existence. Elegance in solitude is the art of caring deeply for oneself, creating an environment and lifestyle that reflect the highest standards, not out of vanity, but as a declaration of worthiness. Elegance, in this context, is far more than appearance. It is a mindset, a way of being that transcends superficial beauty and reaches into the realm of intention. A woman living alone is the curator of her world. She pays attention to the details, the way her home feels, the quality of her possessions. Ritz. The nourishment she chooses and the rituals she honors. These choices are not about impressing others, they are about honoring herself. Ritz. To live elegantly while alone means refusing to let apathy creep into one's life. It means waking up each day with a purpose, Ritz, with an awareness that every moment is an opportunity to elevate one's experience. This is not always easy, Ritz. Without the companionship or routine that a partner might provide, the responsibility to maintain motivation and joy rests solely on her shoulders, Ritz. But this challenge is also a privilege. It offers the freedom to define exactly how she wants to live, free from compromise or distraction. Ritz. Elegance is also reflected in how a woman holds herself emotionally. She does not indulge in bitterness, self-pity, or complacency. Instead, Ritz, she cultivates resilience and optimism. She understands that her worth does not depend on external validation or the presence of another person. Ritz. This emotional sophistication allows her to navigate solitude with dignity and strength, turning what some see as isolation into a sanctuary of self-love. Ritz. Living alone with elegance also means being selective about social interactions and influences. Favorites. She chooses relationships and environments that uplift and inspire her rather than drain her energy. She surrounds herself with beauty, favorites, whether that's through art, music, books, or meaningful conversations. Her life is a reflection of her values, and she guards it carefully against chaos or negativity. There is a refined discipline to this lifestyle. Ritz. Elegance demands consistency, maintaining a space that feels like a refuge, dressing in a way that makes her feel confident and comfortable, and investing time in activities that enrich her mind, body, and soul. Ritz. It means resisting the temptation to slip into habits of neglect or disorder simply because she lives alone. Instead, she embraces solitude as a canvas on which to paint her most vibrant, authentic self. Moreover, elegance in a solo life is about presence, Ritz. It's the way she carries herself, the calm confidence in her gaze, and the quiet assurance that she is enough. This presence becomes magnetic, Ritz, drawing others toward her not because she seeks attention, but because she radiates genuine self-respect and inner peace. In essence, Ritz, a solo life is not a passive state to endure. It is an active, elegant choice to live intentionally and beautifully. Favorites. It calls for a woman to show up fully for herself every day, to cultivate joy, and to craft a life that reflects the depth of her values and desires. Ritz. It is a life where apathy has no place, and elegance is the standard by which she honors herself. Ritz. There is a pervasive misconception that being alone is merely a temporary state, a phase one endures before finding the right person or settling down. Ritz. But for many women, solitude is not a transitional period or a waiting room. It is a deliberate, well-considered choice. Ritz. Being alone can be the plan itself, a lifestyle embraced with intention, clarity, and confidence. This perspective requires a shift in thinking. Ritz. Society often pressures women to view relationships as the ultimate goal, as if romantic partnership is the finish line to which all efforts must be directed. Ritz. Yet, a woman who chooses to live alone without a man understands that her fulfillment, happiness, and growth are not contingent on this narrative. Ritz. She recognizes that her life does not require completion through another person. It is already whole when solitude is the plan. Ritz. It becomes a powerful act of self-possession. This is not about settling or giving up. It is about prioritizing oneself above societal expectations. A woman who chooses to be alone is making space for personal evolution, for cultivating dreams, passions, Ritz, and a lifestyle that resonates deeply with her authentic self. She embraces the freedom to live without compromise, Ritz, unburdened by the demands or distractions that often accompany partnerships. This intentional solitude also fosters an extraordinary level of self-awareness, Ritz. Without the influence of a partner, a woman becomes her own compass. She learns to trust her instincts, honor her desires, Ritz, and set boundaries that protect her peace. This clarity empowers her to engage with others from a place of abundance, not scarcity, offering love, friendship, or partnership only when it truly enhances her life. Moreover, being alone as a conscious choice allows for emotional depth and resilience. Favorites. It provides the opportunity to heal from past wounds, to reflect without interference, and to build inner strength. Ritz. This period of solitude can become a sanctuary where she cultivates self-love and confidence, Ritz, understanding that her value is inherent and not dependent on external validation. For many, this plan of solitude is also a declaration of freedom. It means the freedom to travel alone, to invest in personal goals, and to create a home that reflects one's tastes and rhythms. It means answering only to oneself and designing a daily life filled with intentional beauty and joy. This autonomy is a luxury and a privilege that deserves celebration, not judgment. Importantly, this choice challenges cultural assumptions that equate being alone with loneliness or failure. A woman who lives alone on purpose rewrites this story. She shows the world that it is possible to be complete, vibrant, and fulfilled without the need for a romantic partner. Her life is not defined by what she lacks, but by what she intentionally creates. Being alone as a plan also means embracing the mystery of life. It opens the door to unexpected opportunities, new relationships, and personal transformations, all on her own timeline. It is a life lived with patience and grace, where each day is an invitation to deepen one's relationship with oneself and the world. This mindset is not easy for everyone to understand, but it is profoundly empowering for those who live it. It is a testament to the evolving definitions of femininity, success, and happiness in the modern age. In embracing a life alone without a man, a woman claims her power, independence, and grace. She cultivates self-worth through solitude, financial sovereignty, and emotional freedom, rejecting outdated societal judgments that misunderstand her choices. Living solo is not a phase of waiting, but a deliberate elegant lifestyle defined by intentionality and self-respect. This path demands courage, sophistication, and unwavering confidence. Ultimately, a woman who chooses to live alone writes her own story, embodying a modern vision of fulfillment that transcends tradition, proving that true completeness begins from within and that elegance and strength flourish in self-possession.